Nick Kyrgios is one heck of a tennis player, but he's an even bigger entertainer, something he's very, very proud of. Notorious for his bad boy behavior on the court, it seems like it finally caught up with him. He was sued by a fan at Wimbledon after the Aussie got her ejected from the crowd. But now, the matter's all settled, and that's exactly what we're talking about in this video. Let's get started. First up, Kyrgios settles legal case with Wimbledon Spectator. It's almost impossible to keep Nick out of the news. He's finished his singles season this year already, but he's still the talk of the town. And as usual, it isn't just limited to his tennis. In the Wimbledon final versus Novak Djokovic, the Aussie got a spectator kicked out of the crowd after he claimed that she was distracting him. Not very nice, we know, but hey, that's Nick for you. Anna Palus, the fan, didn't take it quietly though, and took the 27-year-old to court. In a recent update, it seems like the two parties reached a mutual conclusion to this saga, as Palus's team released a statement in which Nick apologized. He said he was mistaken during the final and he was sorry. To make amends, he had donated £20,000 to the Great Ormond Street Hospital charity, which was chosen by Ms. Palus. The Aussie also added that he won't be commenting on the matter ever again. Well, at least some good came out of it. Next up, what exactly happened at Wimbledon? Kyrgios outdid himself at SW19 this time around. He has publicly regarded himself as one of the top grass players in the world, and he proved that in London earlier this year. Nobody expected the Aussie to make the finals, but that's exactly what he did. But with him, his antics went through as well. We all know the 27-year-old isn't afraid to speak his mind. In the third set against Novak in the final, Nick was serving, and afterward he went off at the umpire, saying that a woman in the crowd was distracting him and almost cost him the game. He straight up asked, "Why is she still here?" He said she was drunk out of her mind and kept talking to him in the middle of the game, and that was completely unacceptable. The umpire said he wasn't sure who he was talking about. Nick said he was referring to the one who looked like she'd had about 700 drinks. Of course, fans watching had a laugh at this. The video went viral on social media and the woman was removed from the court, but it came back to haunt the Aussie months later. Following this, Kyrgios was still mad after the game. You'd think he forgot all about it after being so close to winning his first Grand Slam final. But no, Nick was still very pressed about it afterward. In the game, the 27-year-old said that he didn't blame her for losing the game, but he didn't need someone who was completely smashed talking to him. Point in, point out. He explained that he was all for having a good time, like speaking to him between first and second serves, but this wasn't cool. He shared that he understood what it was like to be on a night out, and he could just tell that she had had too much to drink. The tennis star stated that he asked the umpire once before too, but nothing was done about it and she continued being a distraction. So he felt like she had to be taken off the court and maybe given water. Now, on paper, the Aussie didn't do anything wrong. The audience is supposed to remain quiet during play, and if there are any distractions coming from the crowd, the players have every right to request the removal of fans making noise. Except it seems like there wasn't really an issue. Coming up, Anna Palus takes action against Kyrgios. Nobody would like it if they were pointed out like Palus. After all, it was the biggest match in the world of tennis. There were millions of people watching around the world. You pay a lot to get onto center court Wimbledon, especially the final. Even Prince William, Kate Middleton, and Prince George were in the crowd, so it wouldn't feel very nice if one of the finalists called you out for no apparent reason and you were made to leave the court. As for Nick, he has a habit of yelling and finding excuses during his games, especially when things aren't going his way. In the same match, he kept screaming and cursing at his own box as well. Anywho, months after the incident, Palus revealed that she was taking action against Kyrgios. She shared that she was there with her mother, and she'd been looking forward to the event for months and months. Of course, this incident caused her considerable harm on the day, as she was temporarily removed from the area, but it also hurt her in the long term, as Nick's false allegation was broadcast to and read by millions of people. It caused Anna and her family very substantial damage and distress, so she felt like she needed some justice in court to clear her name once and for all. We genuinely hope she feels better now after Nick's response. Finally, this isn't the end of Kyrgios' legal battles. The Aussie might have settled this one case, but there's more to come. Earlier this year, the 27-year-old was accused of common assault by his ex-girlfriend Chiara Passari, and he declined to comment on the matter. Now, if he's convicted, Nick will face up to 2 years in prison. Fortunately for him, the most recent updates stated that his lawyers were looking to get the case dismissed on mental health grounds. Kyrgios has been very open about his struggles with mental illness in the past, so it remains to be seen what becomes of this case. Now let's talk about Kyrgios' other controversial moments on the court. First First up, the 2016 Cincinnati Masters. It's never a dull day for Knicks fans, and this has been true for as long as he's been playing. At the 2016 Cincinnati Masters, the Aussie lost to Borna Coric in 3 sets, and he went through a range of emotions during the game. After he lost the opening set, he took it out on his racket, or should we say rackets. He completely smashed one before taking out 2 more from his bag and absolutely demolished those as well. After that, he dried himself and went on to win the next set, but he eventually lost in the deciding tiebreak. Up next, the 2019 Italian Open. This has to be one of his most dramatic outbursts, and you know that's saying a lot. While playing against Casper Ruud, the Aussie was given a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct, and he went on to do more things to add to that. He shattered his racket onto the court, kicked his water bottle, and threw a chair onto the court. All the while, he was screaming and cursing. As expected, he was immediately disqualified and fined. Before going off, he shouted, "I'm done." Not to mention the comments about Stan Wawrinka's girlfriend. This one was low, even for Nick Kyrgios. He made lewd sexual comments about Stan's ex, saying, "Kokonakis banged your girlfriend." This was picked up by the microphones. Rumor has it that the Swiss confronted him in the locker room after the game. Wawrinka also tweeted that he wouldn't say stuff like this to his worst enemy, and stooping so low wasn't just super unacceptable, but also beyond belief. Nick later apologized for his comment, as he should have. Moving on, the 2016 Shanghai Masters. Man, that was an eventful year for the Aussie. Kyrgios was booed off the court in Shanghai in 2016 after a tanking issue. He was arguing with the fan, then the umpire, after which he proceeded to drop a few points on purpose and let his opponent Misha Zverev win the match. In the opening set, he threw a game on his serve, and he was warned by the umpire to play professionally, but he obviously didn't do that. Afterward, he admitted that he was taking the easy way out. Nick was handed a fine and banned for 8 weeks, but it was reduced to 3 after he promised to see a sports psychologist. Lastly, the ATP Tour versus Kyrgios. Nick pretty much has beef with almost everybody in tennis, including the men's tour itself. Back in 2019, he accused the ATP of being pretty corrupt after he was handed a hefty fine of $113,000 over his behavior at the Cincinnati Masters. He completely demolished 2 rackets in his loss against Karen Khachanov, and he called the chair umpire a tool. As you'd expect, he was given 8 fines for everything he did during the game, including unsportsmanlike conduct, verbal abuse, and audible obscenity. When he was asked whether he was concerned about the fines, the Aussie fired back and said that he wasn't too bothered, as the ATP was super corrupt anyway. He said that he wasn't frustrated at all. Then, in an attempt to explain himself, he tweeted that he didn't use the right words and that he was only trying to highlight the double standards, not corruption. And that's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Kyrgios settling this case? Do you think £20,000 is fair for what he said? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.